in the Ashbringer's way.
Yeah.
And you can just chase them down now. You have the board, and your board's actually pretty sizable at this point.
Sure.
There's the bone there.
Again, I think we're having a little bit of a squabble over plays in one games. It's one of the most interesting parts of the game, though. Just, you know, maximizing win rate from 99.99 to 99.999.
What's the best play?
Yep, exactly.
And still no one knows, truly. Not all the time.
Velen coming down here, and he's just considering various secret implications. He didn't test Repentance before that came down, right? Didn't know what he was dealing with.
Paladin can't do 1 damage, it's fine.
Oh, actually can't. Dione doesn't play Consecration.
No muster for battle.
Oh, thank God.
Looks like Pimpingo is really, really pushed on Dione now, and that's going to be a concede. Very, very strange to see a Tyrion draw off the top into concede. Doesn't normally happen.
Yeah, if your draw on any given turn is Tyrion and you look at that 8 mana 6/6 Divine Shield, give yourself a 15 damage weapon and think, well, that's just not good enough. Yeah, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you know something's gone terribly, terribly wrong there. And again, it just looks like Priest dominance. We've been seeing just Priest just crush almost no matter what. It just finds a way, even versus the aggressive list. So that's absolutely nuts. We saw Pimpingo take a win for the Priest. Is he going to take a win with this Warlock and take a win over Dione? Find out in a few minutes. We are back and ready to go to continue this series. Pimpingo is 2-1 up versus Dione. Dione has his Paladin and his Priest left to go, and he's going to go for his Paladin again. Pimpingo has his Kazakas / Highlander Warlock. Is it going to be enough already? Mistress of Mixers, he threw away the Ooze. Starting Mistress is going to be pretty nice, so Coil as well. Not too bad.
Yeah, and this is the start that Pimpingo needs. For me, he only has this Warlock left to win with, but this Warlock is the biggest unknown commodity in his lineup. It's my one element of fear in picking Tom 60229 as my main pick is that he has, if not an identical, a very similar Warlock deck in his lineup. And I don't know about the Kazakus build personally. It's not something that I've had great success with. It's not something that I've seen really, taking the tournament scene by storm. The problem that it could potentially have here is that it's very, very anti-control. It's not put together to resist, big Murloc starts with the consistency that some of the removal-heavy versions are.
Yeah, what I will say is I feel like Ping Ping Ho, with the help of cards like Defile, like Shadow Bolt, like Blast Crystal Potion that he's running as well, I feel like it needs to clear the board once, and then the deck should have enough to just stay on top of that, as long as the board doesn't go extremely wide again down to, say, a Finger.
I'm going to say he's going to need more than once.
You think?
Murloc Paladin is a very resilient deck. It's very rare that the first board clear really gets you through. Look at this disrespect attack from Pimping Ho, though. Just puts a Tar Creeper in the way and hits face with his 2-1 Mistress of Mixtures.
That seems okay.
No respect.
Respect.
Sorry?
You heard it.
You want to try that one again?
No.
Okay.
Bless the Kings is going to make a straight-up trade for that Tar Creeper, though. And then the other minion can go into the Mistress.
Wait, this is actually genius.
This sets up Shadow Ball.
It sets up Defile.
Told you, clear the board once, you win.
So what about the Megasaur Poison threat? Did he have game against that as well? Yeah, he had
just Shadow Bolt the Megasaur.
He had Shadow Bolt Mortal Coil. Never mind. Pimping Ho, that play was just correct. Well done, sir.
Yeah, look at this Shadow Bolt, very, very clean now. Just clears off the minion, and then on 5, you're afraid of what exactly, Finger? Realistically. This is nice. Already, turn 5, Ping Ping Ho's took 0 damage. Huge win so far for him.
Yeah. Yeah, so Dione actually did the trades the way around that played around Defile and then just walked into Shadow Bolt instead. Yeah. So Pimping Ho had one Blessing of Kings trade covered with Defile, he had one Blessing of Kings trade covered with Shadow Bolt, and he had Gentle Megasaur into Poison covered with Shadow Bolt Mortal Coil. There was 0 punish for that face attack that he didn't have covered with his hand.
Extra damage?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a Mistress, so...
Yeah.
He kind of didn't. What he did was kept a 2-1 on the board, which is important.
Extra damage.
What?
Extra damage on the minion if he needs to trade.
Yeah, of course.
I think you could just play the Cabal Courier here. It might actually help set up Defile with the help of Coil next turn. Depending on how the trades go. It's going to go for the go for the Stonehill though.
Bruiser Man.
Is this what we've come to?
Nearly.
So Dione's just going to play Tide Man into War Man and start buffing Man.
All right. So
this just got very scary out of nowhere.
It did.
Why are you allowed to play a 1-mana 7/4? Oh, there's Blast Crystal though. Okay.
Traded with a 3 health minion down to 2 instead of a 4 health minion down to 3. Does that have any significant impact on Defile implications? I don't really think so. Either way, it means that the board that is remaining is not a board that Pimping Ho is able to Defile effectively right now. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah,
yeah I was looking for the 1 health minion.
I was just going to say if you can set something to 1.
Right, I was looking for the 1 health minion.
Wow,
I was looking for Mistress of
that,
Mixtures.
Defile's a good card, guys.
So if he trades the other way, the 4 health minion goes in and the lowest health he has on board is 3.
Yeah, so it needs to be a 1 and a 2.
Yeah, then that second trigger is not available. Dione could have actually prevented that from happening.
Wow. Okay, well, let's count that as the 1 big board clear, yeah?
Sure.
That's fair.
Yep.
Let's see what happens.
All right. He's back on the board.
No, I'm saying if you clear the board... No, I'm not saying you couldn't get back on the board. I'm saying the Warlock can then challenge onwards from 1 big board clear.
All right, sure.
God. Can you just try and understand some high-level Hearthstone for once?
I think, to be fair, the first big clear was that play where he covered everything with the Shadow Bolt and the Defile, and that one we saw was the second.
Maybe, maybe not. I was mainly meaning like a wide board clear, right?
So many possibilities.
So if you're saying there's 1 million on the board and Shadow Bolts it, that's a board clear. I mean, okay, you got me on a technicality.
Almost out of time. I'm not ready.
Second Ray Bruiser, not as powerful as it could have been in this spot. He's been looking at that wide board the whole time. He's just going to a Mirage Cooler on it. Yeah, why not? Let's just get an extra 1/1 taunt in the way.
It's kind of important though, actually, when you think about it. Kazakus Resurrect. 2 bruises in the pool now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Definitely rather have taunts when you do things like that. Downey has a gigantic hand though, with the help of his Curator.
Yeah, he's also trying to find his way into an Abyssal Enforcer to be able to sweep a board out, so having just that 1 extra ping on board, essentially, the extra 1/1, can help him navigate some breakpoints, make his Abyssal Enforcer more effective. There's a lot of work for him there, but honestly,
2/3.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, he just had some pretty awkward cards stuck in his hand, Mirage Cooler and Second Ray Bruiser, and with nothing else appealing that turn, he's like, all right, I'm just gonna get the bad cards out of my hand.
Especially when you saw the picks from that Cabal Courier, right? Because you're not Cabaling something amazing in this deck, right? You just really the best you can hit is a demon, right? Because you can summon it back.
Or an extra Kazakus.
Yeah. Oh no! From this, from Mirage Caller.
Oh,
sorry.
You
Yeah,
said
sorry. I said Cabal. I didn't mean I meant Mirage Caller. The best you can hit is probably a demon. But outside of that, it's the other options like Arcane Intellect from the Cabal Courier. You know, like you're not really gonna pick that in this deck at least. There is Gul'dan as well. So he can clear everything but the Valfin.
So many possibilities.
He just trades Abyssal. See what happens with the Secret, of course.
Yeah, I think this was Pimping Ho's intention for the last couple of turns. He's been trying to set this up. The Redemption does make life more awkward because now there's just a 4/2 staring at a 4/1 in play. And how many board clears are we at now, Raven?
Oh, if he wins, I'm right.
Okay, all right. Those are the rules that Raven's just made up.
I meant by clearing the 1 big push, he's managed to stay on top of the board that's then presented afterwards. So yeah, whatever.
It's been behind the whole game. I'm really confused.
You're behind the whole game. There you go. Siphon Soul, they're going to clear up the Tyrion. Still provide the Ashbringer though, but he does have the Ooze.
Yep.
This is a gigantic heal, and look, Ping Ho's ahead. I was right all along. And now, the true test of any deck. Can it beat Gul'dan? No is the answer. That is a very common.
Somewhat unlikely.
Yeah. Even with this setup, it just doesn't matter. Even with no Doomguard. What demons? There's the Abyssal Enforcer. Is that it?
I think so. We haven't seen Dreadlord. We haven't seen the Doomguard. We haven't seen Cruel. We haven't seen Jiraxxus. What other demons does Pimping Ho even play? He actually doesn't play Voidwalker, which I find a little bit unusual.
I know everyone is a fan of just slamming Gul'dan.
Yeah.
Even because it rhymes. Okay, he's going to do it. I did wonder whether you take 1 turn to Drake and Blast Crystal, the 5/5 here. Maybe it was worth it.
Yeah, just the Abyssal.
That's why, for me.
Well, okay, so you Twilight Drake and you Blast Crystal the 5/5. That's your play, right?
Yeah.
Then your opponent... Doesn't your opponent just develop a similar, if not bigger, board that you then have to go down into next turn?
Sure.
Like, 5-card Paladin, on average, builds a bigger board than this next turn, right?
Yeah.
Especially when all you're removing is the 5/5, right?
I was wondering how much damage, how much like beef the Drake's going to have him impact board-wise. But yeah, I can see your point there. It's probably going to be awkward each and every way. So you may as well get it down early, get as much value as possible from the Gul'dan hero power, which is truly ridiculous. I think, and it's meant to be.
Yeah.
It's a 10-mana card.
And this is kind of what I'm trying to get at. I mean, you know, we're quibbling over exactly what a board clear is and how many there's been, but for me, Murloc Paladin, one of the best decks in the game at just reloading.
I think this Curator list is huge as well.
Sure.
Like, this dragon wouldn't be here. The Megasaur before wouldn't be there. Potentially, of course. Oh, that's cruel. Kind of annoying at 9 mana at this point, mainly because Gul'dan wants to hero power every single turn, and he is going to. Let's say it's going to be a Blast Crystal play.
Yep. Solid target because of the sequencing. If it was Getaway, Kodo, or Redemption in that spot, he might as well hero power a 4-1. Either way, it means a 1-1 goes back to hand or a 1-1 gets revived on
And if
board.
it's anything else, doesn't get punished.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
Can clear up as well. Can just play Drake and Blast Crystal. Can heal if he's dramatically afraid this turn, but I think he's got some time. I do think getting the Drake down is valuable, just because of the attack. And there's no need to risk the Doom Guard this turn. Oh, he's going to heal the Abyssal.
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't like heal face. Didn't think it was needed, but when you look at it this way, heal Abyssal actually gets more value out of this card, actually. So it's not too bad. Did wonder whether there was a risky Doom Guard, but that's probably going to come this turn, if anything. So I do wonder whether Krul's even needed anymore.
So Tarim comes down here for 36912, which means plus attack or Wind Fury from Megasaur is lethal. It's actually 13 to start with because you can attack with the 4-1 first. There are 2 outs here that end the game right now off this Gentle Megasaur.
It's pretty good odds. It's not like the others put him in a terrible position.
No.
This is tricky. Divine Shield or plants. One's weak to twisting.
Didn't you just answer your own question?
Yeah.
Okay. Especially
but
with
like
the Defile is already used, right? Plants
Yeah,
can be risky
yeah.
against
And there's
Defile.
no there's no Hellfire, right? Oh, there is a Hellfire.
Yeah.
I mean that probably helps you more than anything else. Well, that helps you, Downey. There's a Draxus. I think this is checkmate.
I'm not seeing it.
Wow, this Paladin list really got there. I can't help but think Curator is being MVP in this list.
So many bloody decisions.
What?
I had no idea he said that. Blood Reaver Gul'dan is officially the most British card in Hearthstone.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
So many bloody decisions. I can now say that on air and no one can have a go at me. It's in the game.
We're just saying a voice line.
This is my new favourite thing. Back to the point. The actual ability for this deck to refill the board is the big thing for me because I've talked a lot about Cobalt Scalebane and its ability to just generate a board out of nothing, right? Like Hero Power, Cobalt Scalebane, you have a board. But when you combine that with Curator, Curator keeps your hand so high on resources that you then get like another additional board fill or 2 board fills after that, which again is the root of our whole petty little quibble about exactly how many times you're going to need to clear the board. There,
Yeah, and I do think especially because
which ended up being about 5.
there was almost there was almost the one turn that was built from the Curator draw, right?
Yeah.
Like that one board that was built from having Curator, and we've seen so many Murloc Paladins actually get to that stage in the game and just run dry, right? They like, please can I draw Tyrion sort of moments, or Hero Power Bone Mare is their strongest play. It wasn't the case there, and it really did work out for Downey. We are going to go to the last game, and it's Fabled Priest versus Warlock. Slightly different Warlock than we've been discussing mainly in terms of this matchup.
Yeah.
Normally talk about, the handlock variant, I guess, but it's still going to be this Priest. We're going to see if Downey can get there.
Yeah, and this is my proposed counter to Priest, is Greedy Warlock. This isn't
Is it the counter to Silence Priest, though?
Exactly. This is a very different Warlock deck than the one that I would like to bring in my anti-Priest lineup, which is just double Mountain Giant, double Twilight Drake, double copies of the good demons, Blood Reaver Gul'dan, rest of your deck is removal, essentially. Also, more importantly, it's a completely different beast when it comes to the Priest side. This is essentially the Priest deck that we got used to seeing in the Ungoro meta, the Silence Priest, the deck that was perhaps the king of beating up Jade Druid, just making a huge idiot, smashing you in the face with it over and over again.
It's going to be great to watch Downey play this, to be honest. Priest, Silence Priest specifically, was a deck I know Stan Sivka loved a lot as well. He, and it's pretty. A lot of people thought it was a pretty straightforward deck, and I actually disagree to a large extent because.
Who thought that?
Oh, people are like, oh, make a big minion, hit him. That's generally what. That's the Reddit voice.
Your random.
That's the Reddit voice.
Okay, got you.
But you know what I mean. People are like, oh, you play a dude. You draw Silence, Divine Spirit in a fire and kill him. Done. Game.
Yeah.
And it really isn't as simple as that. Timing of when to push, when to represent a threat but not commit to it, gets very important. The same's going to go here. He can play, one of the minions to then say, am I going to buff this? Maybe. If I buff it and kill you next turn, great. But to stop that, you have to say Siphon Soul, a minion with no buffs on it. That is the sort of dance you end up doing with this deck.
Yeah, that is the finesse to this deck, is presenting a threat that is good enough to make your opponent answer it without you actually ever committing any resources into it. And that is an incredibly fine line to
make your opponent answer a card that can't attack.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. It's a great feeling.
Yeah,
you're like, well, this can't attack, friend. Why are you killing it? Why are you killing it?
Put an Ancient Watcher on the board, and then they have to Siphon Soul it, because otherwise it kills them next turn.
I can see the Elemental there just answered by the Doomsayer. Not the biggest problem in the world.
Oh, no, sir.
Okay, sure. It's not anymore. But if it happened, losing Elemental, it can make bigger plays happen earlier. But in this deck, it's not the end of the world, right? You can, especially versus Warlock, you can be slower. But now, Downey already has just said, what if, friend? I can hit you for 18 next turn, potentially.
He has a hand that is lethal next turn. There is a possibility.
No.
He could potentially kill him this turn.
It's actually kind of crazy.
Yeah. He doesn't. His hand is nothing like that. Never mind, it's pretty close to that.
Yeah. I was more alluding to the Inner Fire draw, right?
Yeah.
Because at minimum, he has Silence, he has Divine Spirit, he has Inner Fire. That's 18 damage.
With the Radiant as well.
Yeah, because... Yeah.
No, you're right.
That's a lot of damage. And outside of exactly Blast Crystal, what's the answer if you make that play this turn?
Silence? Spellbreaker,
does he run it?
I guess he runs
a
plays a copy of
right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got the list, we can, triple check,
Yeah, we saw it. We saw it in the previous game.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was the first game, actually.
So many one-offs in the list,
Yeah,
and this is the problem. If the deck was that straightforward, play would have been made.
Yeah.
It's not.
Actually, relevant to the point, we saw the Spellbreaker, I believe, in the opening game of the series where Pimpin' played Warlock.
Oh, sorry, here we go. The second he saw the site, he was like, oh, look.
Yeah.
Not like this.
Yeah. And I have placed some question marks on this particular brand of Warlock. And the opening game of the series was lost with Warlock. He just lost to Murloc Paladin with Warlock, and now he is in very rough shape against Silence Priest with Warlock, meaning he potentially 0-3s this series with Warlock, which is the exact same thing that happened to him in his other defeat, which was the first time we saw him on stream in the opening round, where he 0-3'd against Taco with Warlock.
And look at this as well. I was just about to say, I mean, game. Tar Creeper stops that. Faceless Shambler, game. There's no answer. He has to Tar Creeper, which limits what he can do damage-wise. Maybe it's Tar Creeper Drain, Tar Creeper Thanos to try and get a draw. But then, Downey has the Faceless Shambler just to create a 16-16 number 2. There's no answer to the first one. How's there an answer to 2? Oh, Downey's drew. Yeah, okay, that's the answer.
Word Pain off the top. Ungoro flashbacks. 16-16, Razor Leaf ends the game on turn 5. Pirate Warrior, who Silence Priest, the new king of the aggro deck.
Look at how relieved Danny was. Just that he knows there's probably, people watching the match there. Straight away, headset goes flying off. He's like, got him. Perfect. He was in such a great spot. I didn't see him losing that game, realistically, but just getting the answer. He puts Taunt in the way, pain, game. And I was saying earlier, these wins are so important to put yourself in the best possible position. We're in round 5 at the moment, only one more round today. If you go into tomorrow knowing you are in and you are just playing for seeds, you can have a very relaxing night's rest.
Yeah, and I'm a little concerned because I've set out a lot of my stall in terms of predictions for this tournament on Warlock being able to hold its own against Priest. And one of my picks, Tom60229, has, I believe, that exact same Warlock list that Pimping Ho is carrying, which does not seem to be performing too well. However, Tom is doing very, very well for himself. So maybe Pimping Ho's just running badly. Maybe Tom's just playing the deck a little bit better. Who knows? But I still got some faith in Warlock.
Yeah, and Dione doing very well with that win. We've got plenty more Hearthstone action coming up for you. More from round 5. So make sure you don't go anywhere. More Hearthstone coming right up.
Don't stray too far away from the fire, my friends. There's more tales to tell. This is the Asia Pacific Summer Playoffs! Gather round the fire, for there's a new tale to be told.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Hearthstone Championship Tour Summer Playoffs for the Asia Pacific region. We are very much deep in the action here as round 5 is coming to a close. As we just witnessed, Daphne able to make a comeback against Pimping Ho with Silence Priest of all decks, something that people were theory crafting in the beginning, saying that it wasn't even necessarily that good, but him, as well as a few Brave Souls, are still trying to target Jade Druid, and incidentally, it's happened to sweeping up some of those Warlocks in the process. Yeah, and given the fact that literally every player in this tournament actually brought Jade Druid to this event, maybe that's a strategy that could actually end up paying off. Yeah, he's currently 4-1. Pimping Ho is going to have to hope that Daihuni does really well with his tiebreakers, as he is 3-2. We have another match, a bonus match for you guys for round 5. We're going to feature a tavern hero this time, and for people who don't really know what a Tavern Hero is, Kibler, what role do they actually play in the playoffs?
So Tavern Heroes win in through these events that are held to qualify for at the regional taverns that immediately get placed into the playoffs. I believe that the new system has 8 of them or something like that. I'm not entirely sure the exact number of Tavern Heroes that get seeded in, but they're in addition to the top 64 players based on the points. Yep. So Tavern Heroes historically don't have a great track record of doing very well. We actually have only ever had one Tavern Hero, who was Snail, who qualified for the seasonal championship.
Right, and this one is Tien Ray. He is the Tavern Hero, and he's currently up 2-0 over Tutu, who is going to be on the Warlock for game number 3. Now, what happened the first 2 games that Tien Ray was able to get a really commanding lead with his Warlock and Priest defeating Paladin in both games. Now going to game number 3, Tutu finally switched off his Paladin. Is going to rely on Warlock against the Pirate Warrior. And this can be a tricky matchup, but when Tutu has an opening hand like this with double Mistress of Mixtures, maybe it's not going to be as bad as we thought it would be.
Yeah, Tutu is playing the more traditional handlock style, not the Kazakus Cruel deck. Does mean he has access to more of these early game defensive cards, which can come up very big against these aggressive decks.
Yeah, and Tien Ray has a pretty slow start, doesn't have any weapons to really make everything come together. Does have the South Sea Captain to pull out a 2/2 Patches. And that's the way he can deny his opponent maximum value off that Mistress of Mixtures, get a little board presence, hopefully get some repetitive damage in.
And now 2/2, often with the Warlock deck, you want to be using your early turns life tapping, but against Pirate Warrior, sometimes you just need to get maximum board presence. Does decide to just get the life tap in, so he gets some life gain value off of the Mistress of Mixtures. Picks up with Defile, which is a really important card, though it is much less effective if your opponent does have the Captain already. Does set up a 1 and 2 on the board, so the Defile can potentially clear off 2 minions. With the Tainted Zealot, though, he can actually clear everything.
Yeah, Tainted Zealot and Defile is one of the cool interactions that people weren't immediately thinking about when they saw Defile. They thought of, Blood Mage Thanos, for example. But Tainted Zealot, because it survives, ends up doing 5 damage maximum with it. And if you have more minions onto the board as well, you maybe even do more.
Wow, that was an aggressive turn from Tutu there. Choosing to actually just life tap, play his Zealot, and allow Tien Ray full use of this board, and he's going to make the most of it and get 9 damage in with this board, and end up getting the Tainted Zealot cleared. This does set up another possible Tainted Zealot plus Defile clear, which will end up clearing off this board and allow Tutu to play a Voidwalker, but a lot of that damage is already done by that attack from Tien Ray. I'm not really sure what the plan was from Tutu there, not taking that clear the previous turn.
So he wanted his opponent to extend into the board a little bit. Turn forwards when they usually play Korokon Elite or Naga Corsair if they have it. So maybe he was hoping to collect a little bit more value, but was it leading into a good turn 6? I don't think so, because the whole point is to set up for something.
Right, and now you've set up for a Despicable Dreadlord, which doesn't do that much, and you took 9 damage. Tien Ray looking like a Spellbreaker can just get through this taunt, waste no damage. This is actually nearly lethal already. Heroic Strike. Is that not going to go ahead and use the Spellbreaker? Yeah, Spellbreaker is potentially powerful to punch through. We see actually a Faceless Shambler in the hand, so Heroic Strike will get the damage in, and then Hydra to the face, 8 more.
That Siphon Soul is sight for sore eyes indeed, and Tutu gonna barely stabilize here. Right now there's only 7 damage in Tien Ray's hand. And remember, he's 1 game away from closing out the series as we tuned in halfway here.
Picks up a Frothing Berserker. That doesn't really do too much here. And the Spellbreaker now, still potentially able to punch through against a future taunt, but he's going to need to actually establish a board presence at this point.
Well, Tutu does have ways to clear the board here. Chooses instead to play the Faceless Shambler, and he's going to let this Frothing Berserker go unchecked, which is really scary because we know that the Spellbreaker is there. But Tien Ray picks up a very clunky card in the Arcanite Reaper.
Yeah, he's got 2 5s in his hand.
Ouch. If it was anything a little bit cheaper to squeeze in a little bit more damage, that could be the difference maker.
But he does still have Leroy in his hand as well, so 2 big burst cards, gets 5 damage in here, 2/2 down to just 7 life. And there's still has to deal with both minions in the board, too. Woo! Siphon Soul, another big draw for 2/2 here, takes out the Frothing, trade, and then heal himself back up. Suddenly, this is looking really bad for 2/2, but he is out of range of any single turn burst combo.
So we got a 2-turn though with the Arcanite Reaper and the Leroy Jenkins. 2/2 just has to pick up any other way to heal outside of 11 damage. Either a taunt or maybe Blood Reaper Gul'dan.
That's a Voidwalker.
That's good enough.
So
Can he start swinging it and maybe threaten Tien Ray?
Yeah, and the Giant coming down in the same turn too does present a significant clock here.
No, Tien Ray just not really drawing the things he needs at this moment.
There's 15 on the board once the Voidwalker dies. If Tien Ray were to just Leroy here, he wouldn't quite give him lethal damage with the Hellfire in the backswing. Or it was actually the possibility to draw because it would kill himself. But Leroy is actually a card that we've seen cut from a large number of Pirate Warrior decks these days. And you know, the metagame a little bit faster, not necessarily as conducive to having a card that is just essentially a finisher.
Yeah, a lot of Pirates play mid-range centric a good portion of their games. You know, they're no longer as burst oriented with Leroy Jenkins and Mortal Strike. Instead, they favor more board control. As you can see, the double Spellbreaker, helping them to either get really good trades or to get past taunts or to get past those buffs. So it's adapted to the meta a little bit here.
Another heal.
Wow.
This means Leroy's even farther out of range.
And that means that unless he picks up the second Arcanite Reaper, there's no single card that I can think of.
Mortals are Heroic Strike or Kor'kron Elite would represent lethal this turn.
Right.
Leroy plus the N'Zoth's first mate. It's Frothing Berserker, and 2/2 is going to have lethal on this backswing. Tien Ray looking for something, but it is not there.
No, he can't. Can he? I mean, he might be able to survive if he used Leroy defensively. No, he can't because he still gives damage to his opponent.
Yeah, the Giant there almost alone, and that's going to be it for game number 3 there. So 2/2, you know, breath of life in this series.
Yeah, so that was a must win. And remember, round 5. We're only going to play 6 rounds today, so as much as getting the win here is really important, you want to set yourself up so that way you can get to the elimination stage. We're only going to take the top 8 people from the Swiss portion and make them play off for the spots in the World Championship and the right to call themselves the Summer Champion. And Tien Ray, even though he lost this game, that was a 2/2's a choice pick into that Warrior deck. He still has to play his Priest, and he still has to play his Paladin deck.
Yeah, and that, to be fair, that's one of the tougher matchups. You often see people having differing opinions of exactly how they want to approach situations where they're down to having to beat a player's single deck. Sometimes you're just like, okay, well, I have to beat it with everything, so I might as well just get the toughest matchup out of the way first. If I'm going to lose it at the end anyway, I might as well save my mental energy for the rest of the day. Because these days, with as many rounds of Swiss as we play, it can be very long.
That's right. It's been a solid 9 hours or so since we began this day, and we still have an entire full round to play. We're going to go straight into game 4. Tien Ray going to start off guns blazing with a much better curve, and the Priest doesn't really have that much, although he had the choice of Coin Doomsayer, and doesn't look like that's going to be an option. Even if he did, that has the opportunity to get shut down by Tien Ray's Heroic Strike.
I suspect we'll see the Doomsayer here. I wonder if he's going to coin out the Powered Shield on it. He chose not to coin the Doomsayer last turn. Now, putting up to 9 health, gets it out of range of the board, but we see that there is the Heroic Strike in Tien Ray's hand if he wants to try and preserve this.
Oh, it works out pretty nicely.
It does save 2/2 a lot of life. It cost him the Doomsayer, it cost him his coin, but saving 9 life effectively is a pretty powerful effect for that Doomsayer. And he does have Shadowward Pain, can clear off the biggest minion on the board, though Tien Ray definitely has powerful reload in his hand with Kor'kron Elite coming down to keep the pressure on. 4-attack minion, tougher Priest to deal with. And in particular, with 2/2 having used the coin to power word shield his Doomsayer, that means that he's off from being able to coin out important plays to catch him back up.
Yeah.
One of the ways that Priest can often get back into the game if it has gotten pretty much beat up in the early turns, something like coin Dragonfire. But now Tutu's going to have to wait until he naturally draws into the mana, that naturally develops the mana, and he has a lot of expensive cards in hand.
Yep, and he has a really powerful play in being able to set up a really powerful weapon with a cheap Dread Corsair. And that combo alone will put up a ton of pressure, and it's exactly as you said, Brian, because Tutu used a coin super early, he doesn't have to fear Dragonfire Potion. We know Tutu doesn't have it, but this is why TNRay is able to set this up as opposed to playing just the 5-mana 8/8.
Yeah, he'd have to have a pint-sized potion plus a Shadowed Horror here to have the third of a board clear. He can only play Kazakus for a 1 to try to find something that can help him survive. But even a 1-mana potion, the perfect 1-mana potion, deal damage AoE, would not clear off most of this board still.
Right, there'll still be at best 6 damage.
Yeah, there's armor.
Armor's nice. Damage to all helps. If he picks up Holy Nova, it helps soften everything up beforehand.
Yep. Let's put him to 18, but there's still a lot of power on the board. That weapon too.
13, he's 18. Oof. Pain Train ain't stopping. TNRay gonna drop this Bittertide Hydra and start pushing more damage here. I think the only thing worth considering is if he kills Kazakus at all, if there's any merit to that.
I think you just want to go face your player Hydra. If your opponent has Dragonfire, the Kazakus still can't hit it. It dies to Dragonfire anyway. You put your opponent at 5 life, you have Arcanite Reaper in hand. So it just ends up being a really, really tough position for Tutu to get out of. In fact, I don't think there's any way out of it at this point.
Whew, yeah, I'm looking at Shadow Visions if he can pull anything. But it's looking like TNRay's able to take this win, barring any kind of crazy spell.
There just isn't a spell.
There just isn't a spell.
Not enough mana here, and yeah, that's just going to do it.
Yeah, TNRay going to get that win. We have not had a Tavern Hero be able to go 6-1 in the playoffs for the Swiss yet, and this guy could be the first one as he is 4-1. The highest finishing Tavern Hero is actually Karakute, if you guys remember from the Winter playoffs. She got 9th, and she was 5-2, just barely missing the cutoff there.
Yeah, and the leaderboard here, a couple of interesting stories here. Coco Sasa actually has not banned Druid yet. He's actually banned a whole variety of different decks. Playing a target Druid lineup looks to be working.
Yeah, he's targeting Jade Druid. It's working out really well. Playing the Big Priest, the Quest Mage is working out. Ouya is making it rain for Brian Kibler as he has the Prince Keleseth aggro paladin, and that's working out for him too. So some innovation is happening, and a lot of action is coming up here because we're going to have those 2 undefeated players when we come back, round 6 of the summer playoffs.
As night falls over the Western Pacific, our world-class field of 76 players head into the later rounds of Swiss. Every match, every game, every move becomes even more crucial as the Asia Pacific Summer Playoffs roll on.
Round 6. It's go time!
Welcome back, everybody. It's crunch time. Round number 6, and you're looking at the 2 players standing on top of the field. 5-0 for both these guys. The last 2 remaining undefeated players in the Asia Pacific playoffs. I'm TJ, joined by That's Admirable, and we're going to bring you Ouya versus Coco Sasa. And this one is weird. 2 undefeated players, and they're bringing decks that are nuts.
You might have expected Jade Druid. Sure, that is there. But then you would expect Highlander Priests and Pirate Warriors, top-tier decks. But we are seeing some crazy stuff. Coco Sasa has brought Quest Mage, and he's brought Big Priest, and he has not banned a Druid yet.
Easy Big, easy Priest, easy Druid defeats.
Well, Ouya, he's not bringing anything just standard of his own. He's got the buff Paladin list that features 9 different cards that cost 1 mana and Prince Keleseth. What is going on, Teach?
I don't know. These guys have to know something that we don't know. These guys thought next level.
That's typically anybody who isn't us. They know something we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so go back to the Europe playoffs. There were some players that brought decks that were supposed to counter Jade Druid. And Jade Druid was the highest win rate deck at the end of it all. Granted, it had a small sample size because only the people that left it up had to have a strategy against it, but still had the highest win rate. So even decks that were targeting it didn't do well against it. But Coco Sasa currently is doing well. And right now he's playing Big Priest. And Big Priest lives and dies by one little guy. His name starts with a B. Ends with an Arns.
Yeah, Barnes is definitely an important one. But you know, I've played a considerable amount of Big Priest. And this matchup can be favorable at times. However, Ouya has the magic opener. Coin Wild Growth into Jade Blossom. The only missing piece of this puzzle right now is a way to draw cards. He has Ultimate Infestation, but that doesn't come till way later in the game. For Coco Sasa, it is about finding that Shadow Essence turn. That card right there. That's the one he's looking to play straight away on turn 6. Now, the minions that he has to grab for this are vitally important to the way he wins this matchup. He's got the Lich King, he's got Obsidian Statue, he's got Ysera, and he's got Yashiraj. The Aya right on 6 here is a big deal. But for Coco Sasa, it is going to boil down to how good of a draw he gets from Shadow Essence. He's got multiple Eternal Servitudes. He's alleviating some of the pressure.
Yeah.
As dire as this looks,
no
it's still a
Barnes.
winnable spot.
He's
see the prayer hands.
Yeah, no Barnes is what Coco Sasa's thinking here.
If he hits Barnes, it is a disaster. Anything else?
He pretty much loses if he hits Barnes right here.
So that's decent.
It's, yeah. I don't think it's what he's looking for.
The pressure is just so high from Ouya because of how strong his draw was that Coco Sasa might not get out of this because Ysera does not offer defensive potential.
Yeah, and you heard Kibler say it earlier, Coco Sasa, based off his lineup, you could guess it. He has not banned Druid yet, and he is 5-0. But if he lets Druid get a win in the first game, he might struggle. Now, Big Priest still has some game against aggro, but Quest Mage is going to struggle to get wins against the remainder of Ouya's lineup.
Well, that's where the Priest comes in and is a fairly big deal to me, is that Priest can really struggle, the Highlander Priest can really struggle versus Big Priest and versus Quest Mage. So that is another possibility that comes into the match, but this game is done like dinner. Coco Sasa did not get the right pull, and he's out of defensive measures.
Yeah.
Ooh, whoa. There is one more Obsidian Statue. I don't think it's enough to get past this, though, because of the swipe in hand.
Yeah. It's not going to be enough, I don't think. And of course, Shadow Essence can still pull
Yeah.
Ysera again. It can still pull Barnes. He has an Obsidian statue in his hand.
Even if Coco Sasa got Obsidian Statue, Swipe and Wrath gives him just enough damage on Ouya's side, even if the 6/6 died to push for lethal here. So Ouya takes a decisive game number 1 on the back of what Jade Druid does best, ramp and start powering out threats.
Yeah, and Ouya, I mean, the couple times that we've seen him on stream, he just seems unstoppable. It's kind of,
Oh yeah.
ooh yeah, is probably what he's saying every time he wins. But, you know, also we saw on stream earlier the players that he's defeated. Ouya has actually defeated both of the players throughout his run to get to 5-0 that I have on the board. Frosty and Tansoku. He's knocked them out. And they're both doing pretty well. Tansoku's at 4-1, Frosty's at 3-2. So some of their only losses are to Ouya. So he's not only
2/3 of their combined losses.
yeah, he's not only killing the hopes and dreams of all these players he's defeating, he's killing the hopes and dreams of the state of my prediction points.
It's something to behold when a player leaves Jade Druid up. It really is just a very powerful deck, but there's so much action going on this round. This is our 6th round of Swiss today, 1 more tomorrow, and these are the do or die rounds. These are what will decide who's moving to that top 8.
Yeah, some big names. Tom at 4-1, Tansoku at 4-1, Machamp and Horo, who's a player that we saw in the previous playoffs earlier this year, have a ton of success. So still a lot of big names up in that 4-1 slot. And also, there's a ton of up-and-comers. I mean, even these 2 players that are 5-0 right now are players that we haven't really heard much about, and they're bringing cool decks. So this is also one of the things that I love about Asia Pacific is they bring weird stuff, but sometimes it just works. The players are more willing to take risks, and we have 2 players with Quest Mage that are currently in the top of the standings. Dione, who we just saw in the last match, his Quest Mage was banned. Weird, but it's still pretty cool to see that deck's getting some love by these players that are at the top of the standings.
He was the 2016 Winter Asia Pacific champion as well. I mean, that's something to note is that he took that one, and Handsome Guy took the next 2 that were after that. I mean, Dione was the only other player in the Asia Pacific to win one of those playoffs. Pretty big deal there that now he's sitting at 4-1. And Dione's a player that has largely turned towards streaming and plays a lot of interesting decks that take big risks and for big rewards.
Yeah.
And here in this same match, we're seeing some of that take place. Ouya with the incredibly aggressive Paladin deck he's brought, and Coco Sasa, who is leaving up Druid.
Yeah, Ouya is actually one with his Druid deck, so he's still got Paladin left remaining. We'll see if he's going to queue that or the Priest moving up here in a second. But now Coco Sasa, I feel like he has to fight a little bit more of an uphill battle, considering that the Druid deck, which his lineup is, I don't know if we can call it hard targeting, but soft targeting. He's leaving it up, and if you leave up Jade Druid, you have to have a solid plan against it. And all of his decks have a good matchup against it. I don't want to say great, but a good matchup against it.
Yeah, in my opinion,
45.
Quest Mage is a dominant favorite versus Jade Druid decks that do not have something incredibly aggressive to target against. The real thing here, though, is that it's more 2 soft targets, where he has some slightly favorable matchups versus Druid, and then some slightly favorable matches versus Highlander Priest as well. I think the combination of those 2 being in almost every single lineup is why you're seeing him at 5-0. He's finding success versus one of those 2 decks.
Yeah, Quest Mage and Big Priest, both of those decks have reasonable to good matchups against Jade Druid and Highlander Priest. So I'm actually surprised more people didn't bring that type of strategy, just because they knew that those decks were going to be popular. It's just people thought, why would I risk playing against Jade Druid, one of the strongest decks in the game? But it's working out for him, so more power to him.
A lot of times when you're at this caliber of player, they don't like to take risks whatsoever. Their main goal is to be able to make decisions and have those decisions be very impactful. Coco Sasa has chosen to go with the different side of that, which is you're making your decisions outside of the game. Can you out-predict what your opponents have brought? The rest is up to the feast or famine style of strategy that you brought with you. Sometimes your decks will perform, sometimes they won't.
Yeah, we also just got a sort of a correction on the pronunciation. It's Ouya for the Japanese player here. So Ouya versus Coco Sasa.
And a pretty bad hand, except Barnes just picked up
Beach in the arms.
Sasa.
Biggity Barnes.
This is a very weird opening hand from Wuya as well. He's got Divine Favor, but now he's also drawn Small-Time Recruits, and he's drawn True Silver Champion. So a lot of expensive cards in hand if he wants to make room for that Divine Favor. So it certainly helps to draw Dread Corsair to empty that out a bit. But he's looking at Small-Time Recruits over Divine Favor.
Divine Favor first is usually the advisable option. I mean, 3 mana, draw 5. Or sorry, draw 4.
The big benefit to me is that you can draw Blessings of Might. You can draw Prince Keliseth from this. You cannot draw those from Small-Time Recruits. So I think he'd want to find some gas. Even second Dread Corsair I think would be fantastic. Another minion drawn for Coco Sasha, which means it's Yashiraj
or Obsidian Statue.
And that's a fist pump.
So it's going to be Yashiraj is going to pull the Obsidian Statue.
Gosh.
Well,
Or the other
Yashiraj.
Yashiraj. And look at Wuya's face.
Look at Coco Sasa. He's just like, oh yeah, big priest.
That is a devastating blow to Wuya. This game might be unrecoverable.
That Yashiraj will pull an Obsidian Statue.
And Wuya doesn't have a way to strongly answer that.
A Sunkeeper Terran? But that doesn't come down for 2 more turns, and if Coco Sasa is able to pick up... Whoa! Those are not good options.
Well, Greater Healing Potion will buy him time at the very least. I mean, Coco Sasa's deck has a lot of strong power once it hits the 6 mana spot.
He was hoping for Eternal Servitude there, though.
Oh yeah, that's the breadwinner.
2 copies in his deck, and Shadow Visions didn't hit a single one. That's pretty low chance considering there's not too many spells in the deck.
This is just such a major swing here. I mean, Coco Sasa now has the 4/8 lifesteal. When it dies, it's going to destroy one of Wuya's minions. Where does he find offensive pressure from this? He's still got to find a way to take care of a 10-9 that's in play.
Yeah, now he can go wide, which sort of minimizes the impact of the Obsidian Statue, but the healing is a big deal, especially if he's able to resurrect some of these Obsidian Statues. Like, this is he's killing it with an Argent Squire, Admirable.
He is, but take a look at Coco Sasa's hand. He's got so much in hand to deal with this style of pressure, and it is not going to slow down from this point. He's just going to have answer after answer.
Well, there you go. He hit one.
He's got Silence. He's got the Shadow Word Death. I think I'd prefer the Shadow Word Death in this instance. Not really anything in Wuya's deck that hits the 5 power mark.
Yeah, it's really just the Argent Squires.
Yeah. That death is dead after this turn.
Yeah. And just clock him for 10.
Yep.
And this is not going to pull anything.
That's really the one hope for Wuya, is that the Tarim can get through this. He doesn't have to kill this Yashiraj, but he is concerned with copies of Silence. So I think wise to do so.
So there is a period of vulnerability here. He is going to be able to turn... Oh, well,
Oh, wow.
maybe
not. Eternal Servitude discovers a dead minion and resurrects it too. It's a major deal because there's so much control around the pickup there. It's not like Onyx Bishop or Resurrect where you just pull one out of the Aether and hope that it's not Barnes.
Get in there and fight, maggot!
The light dims, but we...
But, I mean, he's drawing cards, but he just is actually not going to even have that many cards left once this is all said and done.
Well, not only that, I mean, he's restoring so much life to Coco Sasa with these 2 attacks.
Yeah.
Takes 2 to get through this. That's 8 extra life Coco Sasa gets, and one of these minions dies.
And she's going to bring it back.
Not the Thought Steals he's looking for.
I mean, what are you trying to get?
Honestly, I'm not even sure that Thought Steal is better than the heal here. I mean, it's going to dilute his pool for the last remaining Servitude in the deck? Because he discovered the second one.
I'd imagine he's just not going to play it. Maybe Bloodsoaked Corsair just to get rid of a weapon charge.
Heal for 2 then.
Healing for 2 is pretty good.
You know, Wuya still does have some game against though. I mean, the Blessing of Kings is providing a lot of staying power on board, Kokosasa is yet to find a Dragonfire Potion. And his next big thing is either Lich King or Shadow Reaper Anduin. So I'd like to see some more minions hit here prior to killing this. Lowers the chance it's killing the 7-3.
I guess Sunkeeper Terror, not the end of the world, but maybe just Argent coming down.
Argent Squire's got to be worse than just a...
Yeah.
Maybe he wants a Divine Shield buff just that badly?
Yeah. But again, Kokosasa just continuing the chain of threats, and now he's at the point where he can get to natural Obsidian Statue.
Shadow Essence is a completely dead card in this spot, though.
Yeah, no minions left in the deck. It's strictly spells.
This is crazy that Wuya is this in the game. I mean, this Paladin deck has had some extreme power in terms of just threat after threat after threat for the entirety of the game. Divine Favor is doing some heavy lifting.
But it will run out of stuff.
Yes.
Small-time Recruits is pretty much a dead card at this point. There's not many one-drops left in the deck. Another thing to note is Wuya has not drawn Prince Keleseth yet, despite having only 8 cards left in the deck. So by the time that comes out, it's not going to hit many minions at all. If any.
There's the buff. Let's find another one of those.
This deck actually just generates a ton of damage from nowhere. It's pretty crazy. I guess when you have a 3-mana spell that draws you 5 cards, it's not bad.
And honestly, I think that this attack here is so smart by Wuya. With the life drain, he wants to protect the Divine Shields if he can, and just try to get through damage. In the face of a Dragonfire Potion, it's not much, but he'll keep that 2-2 around. Maybe that 2-2 can provide just that little bit of extra chip damage he needs.
And there's the Dragonfire Potion.
Oh my.
Right on time, I guess.
Wow. There goes the weapon. There's the contest.
At this point, who cares about Eternal Servitude? He can just get through with the minions he has.
He's dancing.
He's dancing!
I think he knows. It's so hard for Wuya to push through this. No silence in the deck. There's no way for him to effectively push past an Obsidian Statue at this stage.
None.
It is a gigantic sink of resources.
Does he have a Blessing of Kings left in his deck that could help him?
You know, 9 looks like he's close, but Taunt and Life Drain is something else.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Shadow Word Horror Anti-Magic Shell looks fine to me at this stage.
The Greater Healing Potion.
Sure, yeah.
Puts him, you know, clear out of range of the rest of what Wuya has. Big Priest has fully recovered on the back of Barnes.
Yeah.
The battle is over.
Yeah, Wuya's decked out. Keleseth in bottom 3, but I don't know if it would have mattered too much. Maybe if it came out super early in the game, it could have allowed him to get that extra damage he needed. But, man, Kokosasa just showing Big Priest in action there.
That deck is something to behold.
It really is. Now, it sort of lives and dies by a very few key cards.
Yeah.
Barnes, Eternal Servitude, you know, those can be pretty big deals.
If you're lacking those tools, really the big recovery stage is Shadow Word Horror or Pint-Sized Potion and Shadow Word Horror. It can buy you a lot of time to just simply find Shadow Essence. Shadow Essence is acting as a 6-mana Barnes-esque minion in that stage. A little bit higher of a failure rate due to the nature that Barnes is typically in your deck if you're using Shadow Essence rather than Barnes.
Yeah.
But it certainly is a powerful deck and can do some very disgusting things.
Yeah, and gets the win out of the way, but we're going to go into game number 3 in just a moment. Kokosasa having some fun with his decks, and Wuya got a long way to go to make up for that one. But we're going to get to game number 3 right after this. And we're back. You can see the players on your screen getting ready for game number 3. And this is a big one. Moving to 6-0 guarantees you a spot in the top 8. Now, granted, both these players are very likely to make it because of their tiebreakers at this point. But having that guaranteed spot and being the only remaining undefeated player left in the field is a pretty big deal going into day number 2. It gives you that huge boost of confidence. And these guys, having that boost of confidence after taking a risk and bringing decks that go against the grain a little bit would be a pretty big bonus. And it's going to be Murloc Paladin versus this Keleseth aggro paladin, I guess you could call it.
It's a great description for it. Wuya has opened up with a fairly strong hand here, though. Able to get the board clear, and then he has the Arcurus Veteran to back this up. It's a nice start for him, but there is a couple things missing from his hand right now. Either a weapon or a way to pick up extra gas.
Well, we'll see. We were talking about it a little bit during the break there, and usually Murloc minions versus non-Murloc minions pretty good, but I mean this deck can operate sort of similarly to Token Shaman, where you're just playing a bunch of little dudes early on and can efficiently trade up these smaller minions into Murlocs if you can keep the board clear. I mean, you said it. What do you need?
That's a huge pickup for Wuya as well. Again, the one thing he was missing was gas for this. Coco Sasa, I think, played this very wisely by using the Rock Pool Hunter rather than the Hydrologist. Hydrologist was contested on board and would have opened him to a Divine Favor on that turn as well. Didn't go with the weapon. The weapon, of course, just wasn't strong enough on board, only killing the 1/1. So he's played this about as strongly as he can, but that is a true silver champion and a major turn in this game. It's a check for the Noble Sacrifice, sees that it's something else, and puts the Dread Corsair in the way. So Rallying Blade's still a pretty fantastic card in this spot.
It's going to get answered by the Bloodsail Corsair.
Yep.
And then Uya's going to be able to empty his hand. That activates Divine Favor as well.
And so this is really the only question for me, is should this Murloc come down? With Coco Sasa having Spike Ridge Seed in his hand, that to me seems like the victory card.
Yeah.
You just jam that down, and otherwise he gets a True Silver charge pulled here sometimes.
Yeah, Uya is faced with an interesting dilemma where he's got a bunch of small dudes, but at the moment he doesn't have a way to buff him back up or refill his hand. So he's still going to need Blessing of Kings. He's still going to need additional weapons to protect these small minions or Divine Favor. Wuya's not out of the woods yet.
Very wise to use South Sea Deckhand and save the charge here. We may be looking at clear skies here, TJ. That is a heavy hand from Coco Sasa.
Yeah, but he's just got to get that one big turn that's going to get him out of the woods.
Well, again, I look at that Murloc Tidecaller. Should that have been played? Sure, he saves a couple points of damage right now, but he's going to be left with nothing on board.
And there's the Blessing of Kings. I think it's going to open up the doors to Sunkeeper Terran, but Wuya is just going to go wider on the board here, and Sunkeeper Terran might put more power on the board than it's taking off after this Blessing of Kings. And it actually will.
Yeah, it would put Wuya at 12 power on board. I think that Murloc Tidecaller was a blunder. And now Coco Sasa has virtually no way to get back into this game.
Yeah, if he goes with Sunkeeper Terran here, he can go Sunkeeper Terran Coin Redemption. That would essentially block, it would take the weapon hit and 2 of the 3/3s to get through it.
Let me think.
Honestly, I think that's what he's got to do if he wants to win this game.
And then hope that he draws a 1-drop, but if he goes with that play, no, he can't go with that play because he needs to keep the option open to Hero Power Coin Spike Ridge Deed the following turn. I think he just has to Sunkeeper Terran, eat the damage, which is going to be 9 to his face at least, and then hope that next turn Hero Power Spike Ridge Deed is going to be enough to stabilize him.
It's crazy to think about that playing the Murloc Tidecaller is that big of an impact in this spot. I think that the inexperience Coco Sasa has versus this style of deck is what caused this. I mean, typically you have cards in your hand, you play them. They're better on board than they are in your hand in most situations. Here, he's stumped.
Now he's taking his time.
Reporting for duty.
Wow. Wow.
9. He's got.
I count 20.
Is that lethal? That is.
It's 5 from the Firefly.
Yeah.
I play the Tarim. That buffs the other 3. That's 9 more. That's 14. 4 from the
20
True Silver,
damage.
18, 2 from the Abusive Sergeant. Unbelievable. And Wuya has counted this about 65 times by now.
He spots it. That is exactly 20 damage. And Wuya has a 2-1 lead in the series.
And this was a very important matchup for Coco Sasa because his Paladin deck can struggle to Wuya's Highlander Priest. He's not quite as aggressive on the Murlocs, and he's focused on the Corpse Taker in addition to the Gentle Megasaur. So he doesn't have that same explosive potential that you see from the decks that are running the Grime Street Murloc. I can't remember. It's the 1-mana 2/1 that buffs a Murloc in your hand.
Grimscale Chum?
Grimscale Chum. And that's one of the most powerful things you can do versus the Priest, is just land a big Gentle Megasaur. That's a tough one for them to recover from.
Well, we'll see. It's going to be a big one. And Coco Sasa, I think we saw him sort of take off his glasses and rub his eyes a little bit after that decision. I think maybe he realized that, hey, if I hold on to that Murloc Tidecaller, that turn where I pass and give my opponent the chance to deal me 20 damage and kill me, that could have been a Murloc Tidecaller, Spikeridge Steed, block a lot of damage, maybe not enough, but would have given him game instead of just having a South Sea deckhand trade over that at the end of the day. So we are now a couple opportunities left to win with the Priest, and still some game left for Coco Sasa. Both of his decks definitely able to beat the Priest deck, but with Highlander Priest being one of the strongest decks in the current field, winning 2 games in a row against this deck is going to be tough.
Yeah, the big one I'm looking at is Quest Mage. Can he survive through Quest Mage? It's difficult for him to apply too much aggression, but he does have Cabal Songstealer as one of his major tech choices. That card could be vital to winning the match. Not only just the pressure from it, but being able to, say, shut off a Doomsayer on a critical turn for Coco Sasa. So this is do or die time. Can Quest Mage get it done? And I'm curious to see this deck played because I've seen so many people debate over how you keep hands with this deck. Is it more important to be fending off the board, or is it more important to be having Primordial Glyph and card draw? I don't think anyone's quite figured it out yet.
Against Priest, it's basically, does this card read, draw a card? If not, throw it away.
Primordial Glyph?
Throw it away. Doesn't draw you a card, creates a card.
And so what Coco Sasa's deck is trying to do is just assemble a giant combo. The quest allows him to take an extra turn if he's played 6 spells that were not in his deck. So he's going to create those with Primordial Glyphs, with Babbling Brook, with Cabalist's Tome, and eventually get 2 copies of Sorcerer's Apprentice, copy them with either Simulacrum or Molten Reflection, take an extra turn, and then kill from hand with Archmage Antonidas and free cost Fireballs.
And he's getting a lot towards that engine right now. Of course, he's letting Wuya draw cards, but for Coco Sasa, this is effectively, I need to just assemble my cards before my opponent assembles his. And
big draw for Wuya.
For Wuya, it's effectively a race. All he's trying to do is get Raza plus Shadow Reaper Anduin and start that train as early as possible. Because both these decks have, in this matchup, a very linear win condition.
Yeah, and really surprised by Wuya healing himself in this position. He's almost never under threat of dying from simply burn from Coco Sasa. It will almost always be via combo damage. So not healing the Acolyte here does open it to an opportunity to maybe get caught in a blizzard or die somewhere else. Interesting choice there to heal self.
Wants to stay at 30. Just so it takes 1 extra fireball when that quest is complete to kill him.
Lots of time for Coco Sasa here under very little pressure.
He's still got, he needs a lot of time. I mean, this deck has a lot of pieces to the combo, and you need just about every single one. And if one of those pieces is the last card in your deck, or one of the last cards in your deck, that's a lot of time that you need, even with a deck that has Cold Light Oracles, Arcane Intellects, Novice Engineers. so many ways to just cycle through your deck. It still can be hard to find that sometimes. And
it is quite surprising how effective this deck is at getting through its entire deck, though. It is a monstrous deck to do just that. And again, he doesn't really care that much about Wuya's draw. As long as Wuya's not pressuring him, that's all he needs to win. I mean, you're likely to see the Tar Creeper silenced in this spot just to push an additional damage. It's going to favor Cabal Shadow Priest, though.
I think he wants to have multiple ways to deal with Doomsayer. He's got Shadow and Pain. He wants a Cabal Songstealer as well.
It's likely that he'll see both Doomsayers at some point in this game.
Mm-hmm. So 9 cards in hand, so he's free to Arcane Intellect because he has another play behind it, whether it's Ice Block or Frozen Clone. Actually, he can't Frozen Clone, doesn't want to do that. His Frozen Clone will put potentially 2 cards back into his hand, which would
that's the major one with this deck. You have to be careful with your hand size, or you can burn cards. When I first started playing this deck, I quite literally remember burning my quest because the last spell that I played that was created by something put the 10th card in my hand, and so the quest, poof, it's gone. You do not get an extra turn. It's bad. It felt awful, and I shame quit.
Do not pass go. Do not collect legend points.
Yeah.
And that feels really bad also because you just spent 45 minutes completing your quest.
Look at Wuya's hand. He's got Archmage. He's got 2 Molten Reflections. He's got Sorcerer's Apprentices. Couple. All Coco Sasa has to do is cast 5 spells that were created by cards.
It sounds easy, but with all those combo pieces, you have a limited amount of hand space to do that, as you mentioned. And there is situations where, in a last-ditch effort, you can do something like go for the combo and hope, like Sorcerer's Apprentice, make 4 Sorcerer's Apprentice with double Sorcerer's Apprentice Molten Reflections, and then just go for Cabal's Tome and hope you pick up enough cards that are going to allow you to complete the quest.
Yeah.
And then you also always have to make sure you have a spell in your hand that's able to be played freely to be able to get that initial fireball from Archmage Antonidas after you use the Time Warp and get that extra turn. So.
And that all sounds very confusing, but the Sorcerer's Apprentices each discount spells by 1 cost. So if you have 4 in play, your spells all cost 4 less. So it's a pretty tough thing to predict here. And Coco Sasa, notice he doesn't care about burning cards right now because he's got all the pieces he needs.
Yeah.
All he cares about is getting access to those cards right now.
Yeah.
Curious Glibberroot providing an ice block here could be big, though. No dice.
I think I'll take the Ice Walker. Archmage Antonidas could be a big deal. He's got a lot of cheap spells in his hand. He may be able to find a way to pressure.
My hand is too full.
Before he gets
Whoa, look at this. Coco Sasa says, we're going for it right now.
He's got Cold Light Oracle, he's got Arcane Intellect, and Kabbalist Tome. It's likely that he finds enough gas to get there.
It also, he's got the additional Molten Reflection.
Look at Wuya. He's not even watching. He's looking off the screen. He's like, please don't find it.
These are 3 Kabbalist's Tomes. And I don't know what happened, but the Waygate activated. So all these spells are going to rip out of hand. And you're going to see an extra turn, and you are no longer going to see Wuya. Game 5. Wow. That is some draw.
You have best.
Yep. Taps out.
We do not have time to go through the animations. Once you see that Time Warp,
it's over.
You know what's coming.
Yeah. Put too much faith in the quest counter there. He was much further along than we had expected. But definitely a solid win there. And he had the pieces really early. He still had a ton of cards left in his deck. He only used a couple of card draw effects. Didn't even need the Cold Light Oracles. Went off on, what was it?
Turn 8?
Yeah. Well, it was I think turn 10 maybe. But
I think it was turn 8.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that deck can hit the ground running real quick once you assemble those pieces. Sometimes they're in the top 15 cards, sometimes they're in the bottom 5 cards are those pieces. I think Archmage Antonidas is usually the one that's hiding all the way down there. But it's going to a game number 5, and it's going to come down to the Murloc Paladin for Coco Sasa and the Highlander Priest from Wuya. And this is a matchup that we've seen a ton of over the past couple weeks. Not only today, but in the Europe playoffs, two of the most represented decks going head-to-head.
A couple big things to look at here for Coco Sasa's Paladin deck as well. There are some significant tech cards. Number one, he does have the Storm Watcher in here to act as a giant threat versus Wuya. It's fairly difficult for him to interact with Stormwatcher. The nature of a 4/8 minion is that Priest just doesn't have super efficient answers to that. The next one to look at is that there's a copy of Divine Favor in the deck as well. For Coco Sasa, he's going to want to burn out resources and hope to redraw. The third is Crazed Alchemist. If Wuya's relying on Doomsayer to clear a board, the Crazed Alchemist can flip that around, plus it can deliver extra damage alongside Spike Ridge Steed.
Very important, but Wuya, I feel, has a pretty good hand in this matchup currently.
Oh, yeah.
He's got Shadowward Pain, he's got Gluttonous Ooze to deal with early weapons, Doomsayer.
Well, Doomsayer is not good enough in this spot. Coco Sasa has the Rallying Blade, so there's Gluttonous Ooze to fight against that, but then there's Gentle Megasaur, or there's Blessing of Kings to follow that up. This is going to be a very close game.
Yeah, you can see Wuya sort of putting his hands together like, please don't have Rallying Blade. It is a 2-of in Coco Sasa's deck. He was just hoping they didn't have it. Now, he saw 2 cards kept on the mulligan, and there's actually a lot of cards kept in this one, so he just kind of hoped against it.
My. I don't know, TJ. These are all very strong plays, aside from the Wicker Flame Burn Bristle.
So, Blessing of Kings just allows you to push over, and Shadow or Death is a 1-of, but you also have to worry about Silence. Gentle Megasaur allows you to get probably more immediate value because you're not only making your Murlocs bigger threats.
I think I like the War Leader.
War Leader just allows you. What's he going to do against this board? Because there's nothing that can answer this board. Holy Nova doesn't answer it fully. Shadow of Death doesn't answer it. He needs Shadow of Pain plus something else. And he does have the Shadow of Pain, but Coco Sasa is willing to take that risk in order to set himself up for a potential huge Gentle Megasaur blow up the following turn.
The other thing, too, is that this just gives Coco Sasa some information about what Wuya has. So, like, when he sees this Shadow Word Pain, he's home free on the Corpse Takers after that. He's home free on loading up Spike Ridge Steed on a weak minion. Those are 2 very key plays to be able to make confidently. When this succeeds and he lands the big Gentle Megasaur, that could be lights out right there. But right now, he's just simply presenting Wuya with priority threats. He needs to handle them at every single step of the way, and that's where Paladin really thrives. You drive your opponent to have defensive action.
Faced with a little bit of a tough option here, but decides to go for the Potion of Madness. This won't let him clear, but it may be able to help him clean up a board going into it.
Now, the Coin Dragonfire Potion is available, so for Coco Sasa, Divine Shield is the best one he can get right now.
He hit it.
And he nails it right away. Wuya is in heaps of trouble.
There's still some fancy things he can do. He can Holy Nova this turn to set up for a Dragonfire Potion next turn. He could Potion of Madness to start taking away some of these Divine Shields.
He's just going to be using a lot of resources to get this done.
And by Holy Novaing this turn, he's pretty much telegraphing what card is in his hand for turn 6.
And that gives Coco Sasa the ability to then shape where the Blessing of Kings goes. What is the best minion to keep alive through Dragonfire Potion?
What is the best minion to keep alive with Dragonfire
Probably
Potion?
just whatever the biggest one is.
Gentle Megasaur. Looks like Wuya is going to go for a Holy Smite. Actually, Potion of Madness is much better.
So here, Coco Sasa, I imagine, is probably loading the Kings onto the Rock Pool Hunter. Keeps the healthiest. Wow.
That might change things. Spike Retreat on the Rock Pool Hunter brings it up to the sweet spot.
Well, mind you, he's seen Shadow Word Pain. So he's not worried about an additional copy of that effect. It's mostly for a Cabal Shadow Priest. Like a pint-sized Cabal Shadow Priest later on, or a pint-sized Shadow Word Horror. So
in that case, the best target might be the Murloc War Leader.
It might just be better to Kings at that point. This is a tough call still for Coco Sasa. There's a lot to think about on this turn.
Well, Spike Steed can be a harder card to use because it's increased mana cost, but yeah, less immediate damage.
The problem ensues for Wuya. Now the Dragonfire Potion, I imagine Wuya is going to use it and try to set up with the Smite on the following turn, and that's where Spike Ridge Steed hits. Keeps that pressure going. I think it's very wise of him to go with this Raza that he just drew.
This one's still going to be close. And another wise target for the Spike Ridge Steed. If Anduin comes out, it's not going to be able to hit it.
There's a death.
That's a Shadow Word Death.
The death, I think, was really the big thought here because Coco Sasa, I think, has read this as no Dragonfire Potion, given the Holy Nova and the Potion of Madness turn.
Mm-hmm.
And so this actually plays fairly weak to Dragonfire Potion in the grand scheme of things. Now, granted, that it does involve having Holy Smite alongside of it. Eight life is not comfortable.
This one's going to be close.
Wuya's got to think about Bone Mare. He's got to think about Tyrion. How do I kill the next threat? What if there's Sunkeeper Terran? There's nothing he can do to stay safe from all the cards in Coco Sasa's deck. What's his best move if that's the case?
Quickly.
I think his goal probably is just to peel as much damage off the board as possible.
I totally agree with that. And then he's going to hope that he can recover this with Shadow Reaper Anduin. The pressure afterwards leaves just a 2/6 on board. This next draw is crucial. Wow.
Spike Ridged Steed.
That is the perfect draw for Coco Sasa right here.
A steed riding a steed.
It is a 4/12. Wuya has no way to interact with this right now. Without a silence, I think Wuya's dead.
And Coco Sasa, look at the choice from the Hydrologist here. Eye for an eye.
He's just trying to push through damage, and
Yeah.
rightfully so.
I mean, if Wuya goes for Shadow Reaper Anduin at any point and gives up his ability to heal, Eye for an Eye could essentially lock up a game because Wuya won't be able to do anything but try and remove the board. I think Coco Sasa
He's got to go
may
for
have turned the
Anduin.
corner.
Anduin sets him to 13, and he gets to pick off the Hydrologist when this happens. So there's still some work to do, but Coco Sasa has some extremely good draws at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all of his top end is still there, aside from the Spike Ridge Steeds.
Doesn't look like much, but
I mean, it's something. After you see that, you know Shadow Word Death is the only way to deal with these 5 attack minions left in the deck.
I'm looking at +3 health.
Yeah, Poisonous is still a little bit of a liability because the Potion of Madness that he saw was the Potion of Madness from Shadow Visions, if he's been keeping track.
I think wise just to add the pressure here, too.
Yeah.
Force Wuya to have as many castable spells as possible. And here, Priest of the Feast is a significant draw as well. It's an additional heal for 3, gets the Shadow Word Death down, and that's 2 shots with, 3 shots with the hero power at that point.
It's going to force some attention.
Darkness speaks to me.
Can't afford to leave that up too often. You can always make the read that your opponent doesn't have many spells left in his hand and just leave it up and hope.
That Priest of the Feast was a big draw, TJ.
Blessed be this funnel cake.
Dare I say huge.
Huge.
And on board right now, it cannot be killed. This one's going to be close. This needs to be a pretty big pickup for Coco Sasa.
He needs another big one. There's a lot of bad ones, too.
There.
Wow, that is a huge draw for Coco Sasa. 8 damage is coming across. He just saw Shadow Word Death. The Eye for an Eye comes down. Now, Wuya has one major draw in response to this. It's the Cabal Song Stealer. He doesn't get it on the first one. He doesn't find it on the second. This is major trouble.
I think he's dead. What can Curious Glimmerroot even pick up?
Is there any form of healing in the deck? Is there any big taunts? Could he have gotten his own Spike Ridge Steed?
I think he's dead almost regardless. This needs to be big. Greater healing potion, potentially?
Silence.
He's still...
It heals him for 3. It allows him to take 6 power off board. It's the start of something. Can the Lyra get it done now?
Wow. He's going to need a little bit extra because...
This is a ton to think about for Wuya, too. You have to think about all of the random outcomes that can happen to this spot.
He'll go up to 7, and there will still be 7 damage on board. Oh, no, he can clear off the Bone Mare with the silence effect.
Or, yeah, because the Priest of the Feast is there. Holy moly, did he turn this around. There are no 5 damage draws in Coco Sasa's deck.
There's a 4 damage draw.
But the Priest of the Feast is on board. That's the issue here. The Lyra's on board. Both of those are priority kills right now. And Wuya picked up Devour Mind. All he needs is things to cast.
This Priest deck is scrappy.
I think you gotta kill the Lyra. There's no way you can risk that.
Let me think.
You know Wuya has a spell. His hero power's free. He's drawing an extra card, and every spell he casts will heal him for 3. You cannot not kill the Lyra.
Must move quickly.
Killing the Lyra is about the same as killing the Priest of the Feast here. Except you deny a lot of free cards.
I would have gone face 30 seconds ago and lost the game promptly.
I think this corner is turned. That is so much healing. That Priest of the Feast was such a big pickup for Wuya. It doesn't look like much, but each one of those represents 2 more damage. And Hydrologist actually represents 4 damage because you get a 1-cost secret from it as well. And there's Greater Healing Potion. This game is done. Wuya has taken control and will be the lone undefeated player left in the tournament.
I'm trying to think of any draw that can get Coco Sasa out of this, but his board is going to get picked apart.
I'm just looking at the eye for an iron. It's funny.
The shadows grow short.
Protect that Priest of the Feast. Here.
3 health.
2 more damage.
Gimme.
Make it 2 more.
I think Coco Sasa knows it.
And Wuya knows he's free to attack because he knows what secret that is.
Can Coco Sasa pull a dino size out of nowhere?
How glorious it would be.
That's
Corpse
out of
Saver,
dino size.
No gas. Lyra has unlocked so much potential for Wuya. The Devour Mind he got, the extra life from the Priest of the Feast, the desperation Anduin to just live with extra life.
The Acolyte of Pain, ping it, draw the silence to keep yourself alive. Insane.
Everything mattered in this game.
And Wuya kind of just breathed a sigh of relief there. He's nodding his head like, okay, this one's mine. Wow.
Blessed be this funnel cake.
He's going to be able to push more damage too. He can heal back to almost full if he so chooses.
13's about full right now.
Not even dino size. You get him out of this one.
Taunt? What taunt's it? Tar Creeper? Is that the taunt in the deck? Imagine if he had Obsidian Statue.
The victory is yours.
3 games to 2. Ouya moves on to 6-0 match record with a Paladin deck that features 9 different cards at the 1 mana slot.
Wow.
Prince Keliseth, the lone 2-cost card.
Very impressive. Going against the grain with his deck choices. I mean, Coco Sasa as well. And getting it done. I mean, we saw how much gas that Paladin deck had at the end of the day. The couple times we've seen it on stream, I'm just like, wow, this deck looks really strong. I play it myself, deck looks weak. He plays it, deck looks strong.
Notice the common denominator.
I wonder what
the weak spot.
Oh man, oh man. But yeah, Wuya, definitely a great run so far. He's going to be moving on to the top 8 guaranteed. It's very likely that Coco Sasa will as well, but Wuya stands alone at the top.
Yeah, I mean, the tiebreakers for Coco Sasa are fantastic at this point. His lone losses to the only undefeated player in the tournament, and hats off to Coco Sasa as well. I think he played some pretty strong-looking games here. The Quest Mage was just lights out. It's interesting decks. It's just everything Asia-Pacific has always been about for the Hearthstone Championship Tour.
Yeah. And we'll see if Wuya can continue that later on. But we got plenty more Round 6 action coming up here at the Asia Pacific Summer Playoffs, so don't go anywhere.
Stray too far away from the fire, my friends. There's more tales to tell. This is the Asia Pacific Summer Playoffs!
We've got plenty more Round 6 action coming right up now. We've got Krebo versus Tom at 60229. Two high-scoring players at the moment. It's a bit of a big deal for all of the Asia-Pacific players in this tournament as to how Tom does. Why is that, Sal?
It is because Tom is by far and away the last call points leader. The last call system is a little bit different this year. Instead of the top 8 going through to a last call invitational to fight out for one spot, the top points earner for each region will get that automatic spot through to the World Championship. Now, the fact that Tom is so far in front, it's 20 plus points his lead. Yeah. That's pretty much insurmountable at this point. So if Tom qualifies by right now through this this final playoff, summer playoffs, it means the race is then wide open because his spot will then default down to the second place finisher. One more little story to tell here is, I'm afraid I've got some bad news for me and for fellow Warlock lovers. Every time we've seen Warlock on stream so far, we've been seeing it struggle. We've seen Pimping Hogo 2-0-3s. Well, Tom has played his Warlock twice so far this series. He has lost both times. He's now queuing it up for a third time.
Yeah, Kribo actually played Warlock Mirror and won, then Priest Warlock and won. So now this, as you can see, as you said, game number 3, going into it, and it is the Warrior versus the, is it the Warrior? Yeah, sorry, it is the Warrior versus the Warlock. Got a little bit confused there with the Discover. Firebloom's Heart quest is live, thank you. And yeah, we might have a little bit of a better chance. I feel like the Warlock has the time to get the chunky stuff on the board. Should be Warrior brawls though. Kribo saves a brawl for that big Gul'dan turn. That can be a bit of a blowout. Yeah. And suddenly Gul'dan, I think Warrior might be one of the few decks it can't race. 8 damage when you're only healing 3.
Yeah.
I think it can actually keep up.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily a race plan for Warlock a lot of the time. It's just, a lot of the time it's almost just kill everything you play and wait for you to
sustain, yeah.
Right, and again, that's just a plan that doesn't line up against 8 hitting you in the face, because once the brawls have removed your 2 big demon pushes, you don't really have threats to develop to stop the hero power connecting with your face over and over.
Also, as well, just a quick note when we talk about Tom and the qualification and how all the other players are looking on him. He has to qualify, he has to get out of this tournament, go to champs, and then get through to Worlds from there,
Correct,
right?
yes.
So the other Asia Pacific players who are in the running, if Tom didn't exist, have still got a big ask of Tom. So, you know, they're all looking at him to do something quite miraculous here, but he has the sort of the backdrop, right? He's almost certainly qualified in the long run, but also he would just love to go and play at a championship, right? If you're a winner of a championship,
of course,
that's a big, big deal.
Yeah.
Both players 4-1, going into tomorrow potentially 5-1 will be the winner of this match. Very comfortable spot. It means you're almost certainly in elimination matches there.
Yeah, and Tom is a player who, for as long as I can remember, who has been traveling around the world to play in Hearthstone tournaments. It's what he's loved to do. In our home country, we had a high-profile tournament series called Gfinity for a while, and Tom actually qualified for 2 of those back-to-back. He actually beat me in the qualification game to qualify for the second one. Otherwise, I would have been the player qualifying for back-to-back instead. But no, Tom put me in my place back then, and it was actually Handlock that he used for the winning game against me. I remember it well. I messaged him afterwards and asked for his list because it felt very strong.
We'll see what you can do with this Warlock at 4-1. Although we've been seeing Warlock struggle a little bit, it must be doing something right. As I imagine it's not getting banned out very often. At all.
Yeah, but this particular build, the Kazakus build, the Highlander build with Krull in particular, does seem, at least when we see it, to be underperforming. Again, I want to throw out the caveat that we are watching players in general with good records. Ping Ping Ho and Tom both have extremely strong records, which means by the nature of Conquest, this Warlock has to be winning somewhere along the line, but we don't know the full story just yet as to whether it's going 1 and 2 in series and squeaking out the win. He's picking up easy wins with his other decks, but I put a lot of faith in Warlock for this tournament as my kind of theory crafted lineup and where I put my picks as well. And it turns out I might just be a bit of an idiot. It's struggling so far.
I could have told you that ages ago.
All right.
So yeah, the Warrior there just using early execute, Kribo. Just using it to just dull the power down a little bit on the board. Tommy's going to follow up with Lich King. Doom Pact, not really the one you want in almost any deck you put Lich King in.
4 of 7, I believe, already for Kribo at this point. So he is pushing very quickly towards a very fast quest completion, but Tom 60229 is well along the way to Turbo Gul'dan of his own. He's got a good chunk of demons to be able to pull out with Krull, just, you know, Krull jamming on the board, followed up by Gul'dan with the Void Walker already down. It's enough to at least be putting on some pressure, and it doesn't really matter whether you're pulling 2 demons with Krull or 5 demons with Krull, right? Like, the answer is brawl either way, so you might as well just commit to the big threats.
Also, this is a really nice bulk win. Goes really well. The Whirlwind effect from Blood Raids are doing the extra 1 damage combined with the Drake. Very nice now. There's 2 minions on the board, although Kribo had to tank a large amount of damage from Lich King there. Now he's got all the presents and there is no Siphon Soul. There is no good removal. And does Tom really want to risk the Doom Pact to get rid of these? He could. He has Gul'dan in hand, and that's the real kicker for me. He has Gul'dan and Kazakus, actually, and Krull. So he could do it. He could get away with this if he wanted to.
Tom could have given up on Warlock just there and then, renounced Darkness, played a different class instead, but no, deciding not to. Picks up a Mind Blast instead.
I like it. Extra damage. To be fair, Kribo is pushed down to 19.
Yep.
If he gets his quest live, he does lose his armor up hero power,
Trust me.
which means that damage permanence is a pretty big deal once that weapon's equipped. Armorsmith can help out with that. But now, I'd like to see Kribo just go. Lich King.
I heard you like P-Drakes.
Yeah, Drake plays the bot, actually. I just like Lich King. There's so many
I know you do,
There's
Raven.
just so many power plays you can get from it, it's insane.
At least you're calling it Lich King now and not calling it Arthas like a role player.
Have you seen Hearthstone?
Yes!
Have you seen the new
Looking
video?
at it, looking at it
It's all
right
about
now.
role playing.
Okay.
Arthas is the best, though.
Yeah, Kribo nearly snap played a little bit too quickly there. He was going to play Lich King again with those Raven instincts of just wanting to get it on the board at all costs, but then very quickly realized if he played the cheaper taunt, the Tar Creeper, he can just activate, fire off 8 damage this turn, start pressuring the health total, and honestly just set up lethal for the following turn.
Yeah, frankly, what has Tom got?
He got nothing.
8 damage is a lot. Especially when you can't provide, like, minion walls. This is just too hot to handle here. I'm not exactly sure what he picked off Potion, I didn't catch it. But I don't think there's anything that particularly keeps him in here. Because even if Potion, it's so much mana that he plays Crab. Well, that's what Sulfuris is for, right? Remove the minion and go. And another hero power to the face. He has to go for Gul'dan.
Yeah,
That's all he's really got.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is pretty much what he's got. It brings back just a Voidwalker, if my memory is correct.
You got this.
There you
got
go.
this,
But
Voidy.
it's the play that keeps you alive against the 8 that's coming in. There was just nothing else in hand that gave him a reasonable chance of living. But Kribo has additional threats. He has a refill with Acolyte, a Pain Ravaging Ghoul. He has Brawl to set up, at worst, a 50-50 lethal at some point in the near future. This is not looking good for our hero. It's not looking good for this Kazakus Warlock either.
Oh, Death Coil as well. Even more damage. There is Doom Pact, there is hero power, so Tom can do things to survive technically, but we can see, especially with that Death Coil, it's just a matter of time at this point. Come on, Tom, click the line we're waiting for.
He's going to have to Doom Pact.
Oh, he's got?
Yep.
Not the end of the world. Tar Creeper maybe is a little bit frustrating to burn because it's just a cheap minion you can play with another cheap minion.
Yes.
Just to try and like make the rag hits not go there. Armorsmith just...
What is happening right now?
Armorsmith's like, I'm chilling in the jungle.
That was bizarre.
A lot of bizarre things are going down there. Crib is just dual-wielding cards at this point and saying, I'm so far ahead, let me play them all. And
Did he act too quickly on that turn, snapping the hero power first?
You think Deathcore was better?
Bank the 8? It's a possibility. I think this is fine.
I mean, it's the same thing, right? Just a turn later. And let's look, Kribo's in no rush. Kribo is not dying anytime soon, whereas Tom has to, just scrape to try and stay alive every turn. Hey, puts himself to 8, which is definitely scary. But now the hero power will push him just outside that range. But if Kribo does hit face with this hero power, that is just going to be game because of this Death Coil. Let's see if he hits it. He can't proc and execute to guarantee.
Nope.
Without the Death Coil. Misses, but again, just a matter of time. Literally asking Tom to just do something here. Tom is gaining health. Every turn he isn't getting hit in the face, though.
It's true, but I still feel like
Yeah.
the game is just teasing Kribo at this point. There's going to be an inevitable connection of the hero power to face at some point, and at that point, Death Coil is going to be able to follow up. If any minion is able to connect to face as well, he's just got Brawl to navigate 50-50s in his favor as well. Like, he's got everything he needs right now.
What's the ever worth it playing Cruel there? You play Cruel, trade the Doomguard. You have 2 minions on the board. He only has Stonehill. You don't get to hero power, but you get a minion that doesn't die to rag. Rag hit, and if he trades the 1/4 into that, then you can't kill the Doom Guard.
You'd be at 11.
Yeah. You're still asking for
1 damage on the board, putting you to 10.
I
actually kind of like that play.
I think that was the cruel turn, because also he puts a lot of damage on the board, and Kribo's at 18, right?
Right. Yeah, and then he has Shadow
Mind
Bolt.
Blast.
Yeah, Shadow Bolt to clear the taunt into Mind Blast on the following turn.
With Thanos. I think that was the cruel turn.
You might be right.
Because this just put... What he's doing by not playing cruel is putting himself in the same spot over and over and over again. And how do you ever progress from there? That's the problem.
He would have been at 14 still. I didn't realize he hadn't even hero powered that turn. I thought he'd already done it. Sleep with the Fishes is the draw. Kribo's hand is behaving quite unusually at the moment. Cards are just flying around.
The weird thing here is Kribo can't afford to Dirty Rat. So he's got like just a dead minion at this moment. Unless he wants to Dirty Rat coil execute. But he knows Tom is going to press that hero power. I do think Tom had that 1 turn opening though. 1 turn. Because now he can't risk it. Does Shadow Bolt in the Stonehill change much? Hang on, is this lethal?
6 damage. Summoning 5/5 deals 6. Means
Wow.
if he does not die, he has combinations of Hellfire and Shadow Bolt to follow up on the following turn.
So Brawl is the play, right? Brawl hero power death coil.
Yep.
Hope it hits face.
Yep.
Wow, Tom might get out of this. Sorry, the Armor Smith is also chilling in the jungle at the moment. Sorry about this. There's in his hand as well, though. There's not 2 Armor Smiths, there's only the 1. I'm not missing something, right?
I'm just hoping we're not desynced right now and we are going to see Kribo's actions as he takes them.
Yeah. Does seem like Brawl and going for the 50-50. At worst, at best, it's guaranteed because the Stonehill wins.
Right.
Yeah, he trades the Stonehill to have a 50-50 of winning. Even with a loss of this Brawl, it's a 50-50 then to actually win the game.
Correct.
This is the best chance he's got, and the Stonehill wins. That's going to be the game.
Going to do it. Sad times for this Kazakus Warlock deck. Cannot get a win currently on stream. Must have been performing for these players somewhere along the line, but Tom60229 still in decent shape. But it's Kribo who's going to be in a fantastic position going into round 7 tomorrow.
Yeah, after round 6, this is the last round of the day. He's got to be feeling great. Can get some rest, some quite relaxed rest, not have to stress so much about tomorrow. Still going to be playing to win, of course, and improve his standings to get into the elimination bracket. But TJ Admirable, what do you think of that last game? It was kind of nuts, right? A lot of key decisions.
Well, Tom clearly was trying to set up some sort of lethal damage towards the end there. I don't think he expected burst from hand with the Death Coil from Lich King.
Yeah.
He was clearly going for lethal, but I'm curious if he takes a 1-cost Kazakus potion rather than a 5 if he finds that lethal damage. Because he gets to combine the Mind Blast with the Kazakus potion with the Hellfire on some turn down the future road. Like when he played the Kazakus potion, he had 40 mana with the cards in hand. He took a 5 anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, tough to say. But Tom is now going to be in a pretty rough spot. He's basically got to win in the round of 7 tomorrow and then hope that his tiebreakers are good enough to get there. He did win early on the day today, which is going to be a little bit of a bonus for him, but it's definitely not going to guarantee him in if he wins.
Well, honestly, I think it's worse news for everyone else in Asia Pacific because it means Tom now has 100 points going into last call.
Yeah.
And he's got a world spot if he maintains that 30-point some odd lead that he has. Yeah. You know, everyone else who's at 70 points is like, ah, Tom!
Yeah. Well, we'll see tomorrow. We'll keep track of Tom, but we actually have another match here that's we can get into as it's finishing up for round number 6. Tansoku versus Machamp, and we're going to jump into game number 5. And Tansoku, one of my players that I have on the board at 4-1 against Machamp, also 4-1, and this is going to be kind of the same matchup that we just watched, but different in the fact that Machamp is not playing the Kazakus Warlock. He's playing effectively the same deck that we saw Pablo playing through his run in the Europe playoffs where he took the whole thing.
Yeah. It's Mountain Giant, it's Twilight Drakes, it's Faceless Shambler. Lots of duplicates in this deck. It's trying to have a consistent game plan throughout rather than flexibility and the power that Kazakus can provide in that one. I mean, looking at Tansoku, his road here has not been easy. He played against B787. He took out my pick, which of course was a fantastic pick throughout the day in Mistburn. And he faced Ouya at some point, dropped the match to Ouya and faced Aqua later down the road. Machamp has had a pretty tough road as well, facing off against Seba and Jinja Ninja in the first 2 rounds of this event.
Yeah, and it looks like it's still going to be pretty tough for Tansoku, as that's a hand that's chock full of threats for Machamp.
Oh yeah.
It's basically a race to the quest, and for Machamp,
that is a great
wow
draw for Tansoku. If this hits either the Mountain Giant or the Twilight Drake, big deal for Tansoku. Not only does it pull a threat out of hand, it pulls the best threat out of hand because now the Mountain Giant cannot hit this turn for Machamp, but he draws a Twilight Drake.
It's pretty big. But Tansoku, I mean, he's got some games still left. He's got an executing hand to deal with the threat. He knows that one is already gone.
Yeah, Twilight Drake is really the one you can justify chewing through with your damage effects because it's not hitting you for 8. With that execute in hand, he would much rather save that for a potential Mountain Giant or even an Abyssal Enforcer down the road. He can afford to use his life right now because he's not under a ton of pressure and then save that execute for the right time. I think this is very wise of Tansoku to use his life total here.
Yeah, and Machamp, I think the question here is, will he be able to pick up Blood River Gul'dan on time? Because that's a very important card in this matchup, as we saw with Tom being able to stabilize. And as soon as that hero power gets rolling, it's tough for the Warlock to survive.
Oh yeah. So Sunwalker not the most efficient here against Dreadlord, but it'll get the job done. For Tansoku, he's trying to get to Sulfurost basically as quickly as possible. Once that damage starts rolling, it's fairly tough for Machamp to fight through that unless he's just got a lot of stuff to put in the way and Tansoku can't clear the board. Big turn for Tansoku.
Yeah, he's going to be able to clean up everything, gain some armor in the process. Still needs to find those taunts, though.
And Machamp has great swing back potential here as well with the Hellfire in his hand. But boy, this is close. I think this is advantage Tansoku just simply because of the Primordial Drake.
Yeah. I think this face damage is definitely relevant.
Oh yeah. It is the place in this instance. An Abyssal Enforcer is a major pickup for Machamp in this spot, I think. I mean, he just saw an execute. He knows that Primordial Drake is right on deck if Tansoku has that. Get that bad boy in play.
And again, Tansoku still needs some help from the taunt department. Ooh, Fiery Works. He can take 6 to clear the board, but I think he's going to get Primordial Drake online, and at 5 out of 7 now.
Yeah, Stonehill Defender would be a major pickup for Tansoku.
He's already used 1, so he's only got 1 left in the deck. And he's starting to get close to that turn. As soon as Blood River Gul'dan comes down again, I mean, he's going to have Abyssal Enforcer, and he's going to have that Despicable Dreadlord. That's going to be a hard board for Tansoku to get through.
Yeah, something that we've often seen find its way into Taunt Warrior decks is Battle Rage. Because getting to these kind of awkward board states where you just need to get extra stuff does happen quite often. There are no Battle Rages in Tansoku's deck. He's limited his card draw to Conditional with Harrison Jones, and Curator is his major source. Only 1 Acolyte of Pain as well. So he's playing quite naturally, or quite literally off the natural strength of the deck and its natural draws. Very difficult to do when you're in a grindy battle.
Yeah, you can tell that his lineups are all very anti-aggro. He's cut like Prophet Bellin from his Priest. He's gone for the Galactic Crawler, the very early game style. In this deck, he's cut a lot of the card draw. He's added a little bit more armor game with shield block. Just a leaner deck that looks like with Harrison Jones, it looked like it's definitely targeted at the aggro. Now he's going to hope to draw multiple cards from this Acolyte of Pain in order to get closer to those taunts that he needs to complete the quest. He saw the Spellbreaker, which is a 1-of, so he knew that he was free to play it.
You notice Tansoku's instinct, too, with the Primordial Drake was actually to attack Machamp in that spot.
That's always my instinct, too.
It would be a very interesting attack, I think, just simply because Machamp is so low on life. But when he's holding this many cards, Siphon Soul is very likely. There's a couple Mistress of Mixtures with ways to kill them, very likely as well. A lot of counterplay to the face plan.
Right on time again!
Much less dense on threats for Machamp, though. So still a
He
strong
wants a
play.
card. This is really smart.
Trust.
Oh yeah, that's actually the big deal for it, is that
He's
gets
about to
draw a
attack
card.
face, yeah.
He can also sleep with the fishes here if he wants to kill his Acolyte of Pain in this spot as well, pick up an extra card off that. Or he could complete Quest with Primordial Drake. He's going for quest completion.
And a Fiery War Axe pointed at the face.
This is a big deal because now he's got the Sephiroth swing on the following turn, and the activation. Machamp is getting dangerously low.
He needs that Blood Reaver Gul'dan, and he's not picking it up. That's a Siphon Soul. Not going to help against 8 damage to the face.
Yeah, if Tansoku just simply doesn't play minions, that Siphon Soul has to be pointed at his own minion. But that's the utility that Mistress of Mixtures can very much serve in this deck. Just turn cards that are now effectively dead in the matchup into healing effects. And Machamp, you could tell he wants to tap. He is desperate to find Blood Reaver Gul'dan.
Yeah, I mean, whether he taps or not, he's still within the range of 2 hero power shots. And at this point, he just got to throw out these 1/1 Divine Shield minions to try and get closer.
They do a fantastic job at absorbing the damage as well.
He doesn't play the last one, though.
Well, Brawl is definitely a consideration still. That Sleep with the Fishes, from Machamp's perspective, very easily could be Brawl.
All right, 2 good targets here. Just does not want to hit the Tainted Zealot.
This is the exact spot we saw Pavel in as well. And it hits the Tainted Zealot. That was the turning point for Pavel in that game as well.
Faceless Shambler as well.
It was able to absorb a shot with Tainted Zealot and start the pressure.
So now Brawl is going to be the big pickup here for Tansoku.
This went south very quick.
Oh, yeah. But this is all the threat. So if Brawl's picked up, or if these 8 damage hero power shots start hitting the correct targets.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. That is bad news. That shot was great last turn. It is hideous this turn.
Yeah. Hellfire.
How much damage is that? I think that's lethal.
That's lethal.
Hellfire into Tainted Zealot.
Oh, no.
Hellfire into Mortal Coil.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
it.
lethal damage.
And Machamp takes the win over Tansoku, moves up to 5-1, is able to get the job done with the Warlock, the threat-heavy Warlock.
Monstrous endgame if that deck is able to draw with impunity.
Yeah, and there's the leaderboards after the round of 6. Wuya, the only player at 6-0, and a lot of big names sitting there at 5-1. 2 players with Quest Mage, with Coco Sasa and Dione. Horo, a participant and someone who did well in the past 2. Machamp, who we just saw surrender from Planet Odd, your pick on the chalkboard, also doing some great work as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's been hunting for the big one for quite some time. He's got a fantastic team, and he's got some fantastic play, but it's always eluded him. Maybe this is his tournament.
Yeah, and you know, it's going to be it's been a great day today. It's going to be a fun day tomorrow as well. But we got plenty more action coming, not only tomorrow, but also next week when the Americas playoffs is coming up. That's going to be September 16th and 17th, starting at 8 a.m. PDT or 4 p.m. Central European Summertime for you Europeans out there. And of course, tomorrow we will return with day 2, the final day of the Asia Pacific Summer Championship, or Summer Playoffs, where 4 players will qualify for the Summer Championship. And of course, we'll crown that Asia Pacific Summer Champion. It's going to be a crazy day. I'm excited, but today it's been unpredictable, it's been wild, and it's been deliciously unorthodox. Asia Pacific, the wacky APAC, it lived up to its reputation with a day 1 that was full of surprises. After 6 rounds of Swiss yielded results, few people anticipated another day of out-of-the-box Hearthstone awaits. Which 4 players will thrive under the conditions and prove themselves most worthy? Tomorrow we crown a champion. Until then, well met.
Who are you? You are not the first assassin sent to kill me.
Overwatch. Get the Game of the Year now. Rated T for Teen.